Have you ever noticed how heavy your own life feels after spending just a few minutes watching someone else's? What if the very thing making you feel so inadequate is not even real? Most people do not realize that the perfection they desperately envy is carefully constructed, hiding the exact same pain, exhaustion, and uncertainty that they themselves feel in the quiet hours of the night. If you have ever felt left behind, anxious, or simply not enough because your life does not look as effortless as a glowing screen tells you it should, this is for you. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may change the way you see this pain forever. Here is a quiet truth few people are willing to face. The tighter you hold on to the image of someone else's perfect life, the more you suffer in your own. Think about your normal day. You wake up, open your phone, and instantly, the world rushes in. You see people succeeding effortlessly, traveling endlessly, resting beautifully, and smiling without a care. They seem to have figured out a secret to life that you missed. Meanwhile, you are tired. You are unsure of your path. You are carrying worries and responsibilities you cannot always speak out loud. And silently, almost without realizing it, you begin to compare your quiet, messy reality to their loud, polished highlight reel. You look at the screen and whisper, "Why is it so easy for them and so hard for me?" Buddhist wisdom teaches us about the nature of illusion. Much of what we see in the world is not the deep truth of reality, but merely a projection. When we mistake the projection for reality, we create our own suffering. We become attached to a fantasy, and in doing so, we reject the ground we are standing on. Buddhism reminds us that all human beings, no matter how flawless they appear, are bound by the same universal truths. Everyone experiences sorrow. Everyone experiences doubt. Imagine walking past a grand theater in the middle of the night. Through a window, you see a stage bathed in bright, warm light. A beautiful play is happening. The actors are smiling, their movements are graceful, and everything looks perfect. You stand outside in the cold, feeling miserable, wishing your life looked exactly like that stage. But what you cannot see is what happens behind the heavy velvet curtain. You do not see the frantic rushing in the dark, the forgotten lines, the exhaustion, the tears, or the loneliness backstage. You are comparing your entire complex existence, the backstage, the mess, the shadows, to a fraction of a second of someone else's brightly lit performance. This is exactly what happens when we scroll through our digital lives. We look at a carefully edited moment, and we assume it represents the entirety of that person's day. We forget that a photograph is just a fraction of a second, frozen, filtered, and completely removed from the chaotic, ordinary hours that surrounded it. Ask yourself this: what are you actually envying? Are you envying a human reality, or are you envying a carefully crafted illusion? Is this thought bringing you peace, or is it feeding your deepest fears of unworthiness? Pause, breathe. The next time you feel that familiar, heavy, sinking feeling in your chest while looking at a screen, just observe it. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. Remind yourself, I am looking at a stage, not a life. You do not need to feel inferior to a mirage. Peace is not found by building a better illusion to show the world. It is found by making space for your own beautifully imperfect reality. But stepping away from the illusion is only the first step, because beneath every comparison is a habit of looking inward instead of outward. And this is where the next truth begins. 2. Comparing your inside to their outside. What if you are judging your deepest, most hidden struggles against a surface that is designed specifically to hide them? Here is the truth that fuels so much of our daily exhaustion. We know every single flaw in our own existence, yet we quietly assume others have none. You know what it feels like. You know your own anxious thoughts. You know the way your heart races when you worry about the future or replay a conversation from 3 years ago. You know the exact moments you feel lonely, even when you are not alone. You know your messy, unspoken fears. This is your internal world. It is complex, sometimes dark and deeply human. But when you look at someone else, especially through the bright glow of a screen, you do not see their internal world. You only see their outside. You see the milestones, the bright smiles, the flawless vacations, and the effortless ease. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that suffering arises when we cling to false perceptions. We become trapped in a distorted view of reality, believing that what we see is all there is. When we compare our internal suffering to someone else's external presentation, we are measuring our full, authentic reality against an incomplete fragment. We forget the profound truth of our shared humanity, that beneath every polished surface lies a mind that overthinks, a heart that breaks, and a spirit that sometimes grows weary. Imagine standing by a vast, quiet lake at night. The surface of the water is perfectly still, beautifully reflecting the bright silver light of the moon. It looks like a mirror, flawless and completely undisturbed. But if you were to dive beneath that calm surface, you would find freezing water, unseen currents, and tangled roots pulling in every direction. When you look at someone else's life from the outside, you are only seeing the glowing silver reflection on the surface. But you are experiencing your own life from deep underwater, wrestling with the currents. You are holding your breath in your own depths, wondering why everyone else gets to simply glide gracefully on the top. This is the quiet tragedy of modern life. We sit in our rooms, wrestling with the fear of failure, the pain of feeling invisible, or the heavy weight of trying to hold our lives together. Then we look at a screen and see someone who appears entirely unburdened. Instantly, the mind whispers a cruel lie. Everyone else is happy. You are the only one who is struggling. We forget that they, too, are treading water in their own deep, dark lakes. Think about your own life. When you feel that sudden, sharp sting of envy, what invisible wound is it touching within you? Are you truly envious of their picture? Or are you just desperately craving the peace they seem to possess? Pause. Breathe. The next time you feel small because of someone else's apparent perfection, stop. Remind yourself that you know every single chapter of your own story, but you have only seen the front cover of theirs. Do not weigh your heaviest burdens against someone else's lightest moments. Let that sink in. You do not have to carry the burden of this false comparison. Peace is not found by becoming as shiny and flawless as a reflection. It is found by accepting the deep, messy, beautiful truth of your own humanity. But understanding this requires us to look closer at the nature of the images we consume, because what you see is rarely what actually exists. 3. What you see is not what exists. What if the reality you are so jealous of does not actually exist at all? Here is the truth few people want to face. We are often breaking our own hearts over a ghost. Think about how quickly your mind creates a story. You see a smiling face on a beautiful beach, a perfectly serene home, or a couple laughing flawlessly. Instantly, your mind fills in the blanks. It tells you, their life is always like this. They are always happy. They do not know what it means to be exhausted. We take a single fraction of a second, a frozen, carefully chosen moment, and we stretch it out in our minds. We assume their entire existence looks exactly like that photograph. We forget the hours of stress before the camera clicked and the days of mundane routine that followed. In Buddhist thought, one of the deepest lessons is the practice of seeing things as they truly are, without adding our own assumptions or stories to them. Suffering arises when our minds fabricate a permanent, perfect reality out of something that is fleeting and deeply incomplete. We suffer because we believe the illusion is real, and we violently crave that illusion for ourselves. Buddhism teaches us to observe without attachment, to recognize that a picture is just a picture, not a substitute for the complex, ever-changing nature of human life. Imagine a candle burning brightly in a quiet, dark room. If someone took a photograph of just the flame, zooming in so nothing else was visible, you would only see the warm, beautiful, glowing light. You would look at it and think, how perfect, how completely peaceful. But what the photograph edits out is the reality of the candle. It cuts out the wax slowly melting and dripping away. It hides the wick burning down to nothing. It ignores the sudden, violent drafts of wind that constantly threaten to extinguish the fire. You fall in love with the isolated light, completely ignoring the slow burning and quiet struggle required to sustain it. When we look at the lives of others online, we are only looking at the flame. We do not see the melting wax. We do not see the financial stress behind that flawless vacation. We do not see the bitter argument that happened 5 minutes before the perfect family portrait was taken. We do not see the crushing internal pressure they feel to keep succeeding, to keep smiling, to keep proving their worth to strangers. We only see the light, and we sit in our own rooms, wondering why our lives feel so heavy and dark. Ask yourself, are you comparing your entire, complex journey to a single, isolated flame? What if the person you are secretly envying is silently exhausted, just trying to keep their own fire from going out? Pause. Breathe. The next time you look at a screen and feel the sudden urge to compare your life to an image, stop. Let the picture simply be a picture. Do not turn a single fleeting moment into a permanent truth. Observe the image without following the story your mind tries to write about it. Let that sink in. You do not have to chase a life that only exists in photographs. But realizing the illusion is only part of the journey. Because even when we know it is not real, the heavy, sinking feeling of envy can still settle deeply into our chests. And this is where the next truth begins. 4. The heavy burden of envy. What if the heaviest weight you carry is not your own life, but your desperate desire for someone else's? Here is the truth that slowly drains our spirit. Envy does not give you what you desire. It only steals the joy from what you already possess. You know the feeling. You are having a perfectly peaceful day. You feel content with your quiet routine. Then you open an app and see an announcement. A friend gets a promotion, an acquaintance buys a beautiful home, or a stranger posts about a life-changing journey that looks entirely effortless. Suddenly, your quiet peace vanishes. A physical weight drops into your chest. A silent resentment creeps in. The contentment you felt just moments ago is instantly replaced by a loud, restless anxiety. You begin to question your choices, your worth, and your future. You feel invisible. You are no longer living your day. You are mourning a life you do not even have. Buddhist wisdom teaches that envy is a profound form of attachment. It is the ego grasping at what is not there, resisting the reality of the present moment. In Buddhist thought, envy is often described as a burning coal. We pick it up, holding it tightly, angry that someone else has what we want. But the coal does not burn them. It only burns the hand that holds it. When we obsess over the blessings of another, we become entirely blind to the ground we are standing on. We suffer not because we lack what we need, but because we refuse to accept our own path, endlessly chasing a mirage. Imagine a traveler walking through a vast, beautiful forest. Their path is shaded, quiet, and uniquely their own. But instead of watching where they step, they are constantly staring through the trees, watching another traveler walking on a high, sunlit mountain ridge. Because they are not looking at their own feet, they stumble over roots. They fall. They fail to see the wildflowers blooming beside them, and they miss the clear, cool streams flowing right in front of them. The journey becomes an agonizing struggle, not because their forest is harsh, but because the traveler refuses to walk their own path. They are walking in one place, but leaving their mind entirely in another. This is exactly what we do when we lose ourselves in envy online. We stop walking our own path. We stop appreciating our own quiet progress, our own survival, and our own small, hard-fought victories. We let the distant image of someone else's success turn our own beautiful life into a source of misery. We carry their highlight reel like a heavy stone in our chest, letting the weight of comparison exhaust us before the day has even truly begun. Think about your own life. What joy have you discarded today because it did not look as grand as someone else's? Are you walking your own path, or are you stumbling through the dark because your eyes are fixed on a distant mountain? Is this thought bringing you peace or feeding your fear? Pause, breathe. Notice the heavy, tightening grip of envy when it arises, but do not feed it. Drop the stone. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You do not need to carry the weight of someone else's journey. Let their path be theirs, and gently bring your focus back to where your own feet are planted. Let that sink in. You cannot find peace while secretly wishing to be someone else. But releasing this heavy burden requires us to understand that life does not bloom all at once for everyone. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. Embracing your own seasons. What if the reason you feel so deeply behind in life is simply because you are expecting a brilliant summer while you are still surviving your winter? Here is a quiet truth we constantly fight against. Nothing in nature blooms all year round, yet we brutally expect ourselves to. Think about the heavy pressure you carry every single day. You open your phone and see a world of people who seem to be constantly harvesting their successes. They are reaching the peak of their careers, finding perfect clarity, standing at the finish line of their struggles, and celebrating bright milestones. Then, you look at your own life. You see unfinished projects, a tired mind, and a path that feels incredibly uncertain. You feel like a failure. You feel like you are running out of time, endlessly waiting for a breakthrough that never seems to arrive. So, you start trying to force things to happen. You exhaust yourself trying to control the timing of your life, desperately believing that if you are not visibly succeeding right now, you are falling behind forever. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound truth of impermanence and the natural rhythm of all things. Everything in this universe arises, shifts, and passes away in its own perfect time. Much of our deep suffering occurs when we violently resist the present moment, trying to force our lives to match an artificial timeline we invented in our heads. In Buddhist thought, there is great peace in simply accepting the conditions of your present reality. We suffer because we refuse to accept the season we are currently in, constantly craving the full harvest before our soil is even ready. Imagine a beautiful ancient tree standing quietly in the middle of a harsh winter. Its branches are completely bare, stripped of all color by the freezing wind. If you were to walk past it, you might think it is empty, stagnant, or doing absolutely nothing. But deep beneath the frozen earth, hidden in the quiet darkness, the roots are actively resting. They are gathering strength, storing energy, and preparing for the warmth that will eventually return. The tree does not panic. It does not look at a tree on the other side of the world, blooming in a tropical summer, and conclude that it has failed. It simply stands perfectly still through the snow, trusting the silent, invisible work happening beneath the surface. We are so deeply terrified of our own winters. We live in a world that demands constant, visible growth, especially online. If you are healing from a loss, resting a tired mind, or simply trying to figure out your next quiet step, the glowing screen in your hand tells you that you are wasting time. You compare your quiet, unseen winter to someone else's loud, vibrant spring. You forget that true transformation often happens in the dark, long before it can be seen by the world. Ask yourself, what season are you truly in right now? Are you punishing yourself for not blooming, when your mind and spirit are quietly begging for time to rest? Are you tearing at your own roots because someone else's branches are full? Pause, breathe. Do your part, then release the outcome. Stop trying to force the door open before it is unlatched. Allow yourself to be a work in progress without apologizing for the quietness of your current season. Let that sink in. You are not behind in life. You are simply in your own season, doing the quiet work that no one else can see. But to truly honor where you are, you must consciously choose where to place your attention. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. The power of diverting your gaze. What if the quickest way to find peace is simply to look somewhere else? Here is the truth we often forget in our fast, digital age. Where you place your attention is where you place your life. Think about how much of your day is spent staring into the lives of others. You hold a small, glowing screen in your hand, and for hours, you pour your energy, your focus, and your emotion into a world that is not yours. You watch strangers live, celebrate, and succeed. And slowly, the life right in front of you, your own room, your own relationships, your own quiet moments begins to feel entirely insignificant. You feel emotionally exhausted, not because you have done so much in your own life, but because you have given all your precious attention to a reality you cannot even touch. You are starving your own present moment to feed an illusion. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound importance of mindfulness and the nature of attention. In Buddhist thought, the mind takes the shape of whatever it repeatedly rests upon. If you constantly rest your attention on lack, comparison, and the polished lives of others, your mind becomes a landscape of suffering. But if you gently train your attention to return to your physical reality, the illusion instantly loses its power over you. Buddhism reminds us that we are not powerless prisoners to the images we see. We possess the profound, quiet ability to simply change our gaze. Imagine a person standing outside on a clear, magnificent night. Above them is a vast, beautiful sky filled with thousands of quiet, steady stars. But instead of looking up, they are staring directly into a harsh, bright flashlight they are holding just inches from their eyes. The glare is so intense it blinds them. They feel overwhelmed, complaining that the world is too bright, too chaotic, and that they cannot see the path ahead. But the problem is not the night. The problem is not the path. The problem is simply that they refuse to turn the flashlight off and let their eyes adjust to the vast, quiet reality surrounding them. This is what happens every time we lose ourselves in endless comparison online. We are shining a bright, harsh light into our own eyes, artificially blinding ourselves to the actual life we are living. We miss the subtle beauty of a quiet morning, the warmth of our own home, or the simple peace of sitting still without an audience. We become so obsessed with the blinding glare of someone else's highlight reel that we completely forget we are breathing, surviving, and holding our own complex existence right here, right now. Ask yourself, how much of your daily peace is spent staring into the harsh glare of comparison? What quiet, beautiful things in your own life are you currently blind to, simply because your gaze is pointed in the wrong direction? Pause, breathe. Gently lower the screen. Look at the room you are in. Notice the physical space around you. Do not judge it, just observe it. Reclaim your attention from the illusion. Let that sink in. You always have the power to turn away from what is hurting you. Peace is not found by finding a better image to look at. It is found by remembering how to look at your own life again. But changing your gaze is only part of finding true clarity, because when you do look at others, you must learn to see them in their entirety. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. Recognizing the unseen struggles. What if the person whose life you desperately wish you had is secretly wishing for the quiet peace you have right now? Here is the truth that can instantly break the heavy spell of envy. We completely forget that behind every flawless image is a vulnerable, fragile human being. Think about how easily we strip away the humanity of those we deeply admire online. We look at someone who has the perfect relationship, the ideal career, or the effortless beauty we crave. In our minds, we turn them into something superhuman. We falsely believe that because they have what we want, they are completely immune to the pain we feel. We assume their wealth protects them from grief. We assume their visible popularity shields them from profound loneliness. We assume that their outward success has somehow cured them of the quiet, terrifying anxiety of simply being alive. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound truth of universal suffering. It reminds us that no amount of worldly success, money, or external praise can ever sever our connection to the human condition. Every single person will experience loss. Every person will face doubt, aging, and deep uncertainty. In Buddhist thought, realizing this shared vulnerability is the birth of true compassion. When we stop envying the illusion of someone's life and start recognizing their inevitable suffering, the heavy wall of comparison completely collapses. We realize we are not competing with them. We are walking the exact same difficult path alongside them. Imagine standing on the shore, watching a grand, magnificent boat gliding across the horizon. The sun is shining brightly on its white sails, and from a distance, it looks like it is floating effortlessly over the deep water. You sit on the rough sand, feeling deeply jealous of the passengers, who seem to be enjoying a perfect, peaceful voyage. But what you cannot see from the far shore is the reality inside the ship. You do not see the powerful hidden currents tossing the boat violently from side to side. You do not see the crew exhausted, frantically bailing out water from a leak in the hull. You do not hear the quiet fears of the passengers who are terrified of the unseen depths below them. You only see the bright sails, completely blind to the heavy, unseen struggle required to simply keep the vessel afloat. This is what we do when we idolize the lives of others. We see their bright sails on a screen, and we instantly resent our own place on the shore. We forget that they are fighting their own quiet storms. They lie awake at night, wrestling with the heavy fear of not being enough. They mourn people they have lost. They face the terrifying emptiness of achieving everything they thought they wanted, only to realize their internal wounds are still bleeding. Their pain may look different than yours, but it is just as heavy and just as real. Ask yourself this: if you had to trade your entire life for theirs, not just the bright, beautiful moments you see online, but every single hidden trauma, every quiet insecurity, and every unhealed sorrow they carry, would you still want it? Pause. Breathe. The next time you feel envious of a stranger, silently wish them well. Offer compassion instead of resentment. Recognize the delicate, beautiful human being behind the glowing screen. Let that sink in. You do not need to envy a life that carries its own heavy burdens. True freedom begins when you stop looking at others with jealousy and start looking at them with a shared, quiet understanding. And this is where the final truth begins. 8. Reclaiming your peace in the present moment. What if the peace you have been desperately searching for has been quietly waiting for you right where you are? Here is the final truth. You can stop fighting the life you have now. At the beginning of this journey, we talked about that familiar, heavy exhaustion, the quiet, sinking feeling you get when you look at a glowing screen and instantly believe you are falling behind. For so long, you have compared your messy, complex, deeply human reality to the bright, carefully edited performances of a digital world. You have carried the heavy burden of envy. You have blindly punished yourself for resting in your own winter, desperately trying to force the bloom, of a summer that was never yours to begin with. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that true peace is never found by acquiring a more perfect life, nor is it found by building a more flawless illusion to show others. True peace is found in the profound act of letting go. It is the gentle practice of non-attachment. Peace arrives the exact moment we stop demanding our lives look like someone else's and slowly begin to honor the sacred ground we are already standing on. When you finally stop resisting the present moment, the illusion instantly loses its power to hurt you. Imagine a person walking along a beautiful, quiet river. In their hands, they are tightly gripping a handful of jagged, heavy stones. They squeeze their fists around the stones, believing that if they hold on tightly enough, the weight will somehow keep them safe or turn into something precious. But the stones are only cutting their hands, causing deep, silent pain. They are so focused on the bleeding that they cannot appreciate the soft sound of the water, the cool breeze, or the beauty of the path ahead. Freedom does not come from finding better stones to hold. Freedom comes the exact second they simply choose to open their hands, let the rocks fall into the water, and walk forward with empty, open palms. For years, you have been holding on to the sharp stones of comparison. You have squeezed them tightly, hoping they would motivate you, fix you, or finally make you feel like you are enough. But they are only causing you pain. They are only distracting you from the quiet, beautiful river of your own actual life. Your real life is happening right now, far away from any screen. It is in the quiet rhythm of your breathing, the simple tasks of your morning, and the unseen, hard-fought survival you accomplish every single day. Ask yourself one final time, what are you truly afraid will happen if you finally let go of the need to measure your worth against a stranger's highlight reel? Who would you be if you stopped trying to win a race that does not actually exist? Pause. Breathe. Feel the steady ground beneath your feet. Observe the quiet space around you. You are not powerless. You do not have to chase a ghost anymore. Stop trying to force the door of an illusion open and gently walk into the reality of your own deeply beautiful life. Let that sink in. You have always been enough, exactly as you are, behind the scenes, without an audience, and without a filter. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now.